Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. I'm Maurice Patton. That's Wade Neely. We'll be here for the next couple of hours talking local, regional, and national sports topics and getting you ready for the weekend. Again, plenty to get ready for. Wade, what's up?
What's happening, Mo? Good to see you. Good to be with everybody on a Friday here. Man, it is a big weekend ahead. You are exactly right. First weekend in earnest here in June. And yeah, we got a lot to get into today, really kind of covering everything. A little bit of here, a little bit of there, and a lot in between, right?
Yeah, exactly. A lot of fun, man. A lot of plenty to talk about. This is kind of a sports talk show paradise. In the next hour, we're going to visit with Katie Mosley, who by day is the social media manager for the Tennessee Titans, but wears her softball allegiances quite intensely right now, because her Texas Tech Red Raiders are one win away from a national championship, and that will be decided tonight out in Oklahoma City as they take on the Longhorns of Texas in a Lone Star battle. So looking forward to speaking with her about how we got to tonight after Texas Tech had to kind of fight off the mat in this best of three championship series. So again, looking forward to talking to Katie Mosley about a little college softball in the next hour. In the next segment, we'll be joined by Jeff Hem, the voice of the Nashville Sounds. We've mentioned the Sounds pretty regularly here over the last few weeks and wanted to try to get some boots on the ground, so to speak. They are playing some really good ball. Wade was out there earlier in the week. We were out there live on Wednesday. I didn't stick around for the game, but again, Wade went to Tuesday night's game. They've been playing some really good ball right now, particularly on the mound. But looking forward to catching up with Jeff and getting his thoughts on this team as they approach the halfway mark of the International League Series. We'll be talking some other baseball as well, including what we hope was the implosion of the Atlanta Braves yesterday and how they bounced back from that. Also some college baseball to get to. Big weekend across the country for that. So little hoops, a little ice, some horse racing. Man, we're going to be all over the place over the next couple of hours and looking forward to doing so. So it should be fun.
Absolutely, man. Mo, we already got one super regional game in the books, and if you're an Arizona fan, plug your ears. 18-2, North Carolina throttling the Wildcats. ACC getting off to a good start.
Yeah, they've got 5 teams playing this weekend, and they are pretty proud of that fact. And at least one, like you said, off to a rousing start. 18-2, and they're done already. Goodness gracious, that's a long way to go for that kind of loss if you are the Wildcats.
Yeah, we could have stayed at home and caught a whooping like that and saved ourselves some trip if you're Arizona. They actually led 1-0. UNC put 5 across in the bottom of the first, and that was pretty much all she wrote. Ends up, 18-2. UNC with 17 hits, the number 5 seed. Arizona, they're 42-19. Maybe they'll bounce back, but didn't look like it today, that's for sure.
Man, that's a tough way to get started. Yeah, we'll be talking some more about some supers as the show progresses today, because again, a lot of activity, a lot of fun as those teams make their way toward Omaha. Maybe not Arizona, but some of those others. So we'll be checking in on all of that here as we go. That said, let's go ahead and get things started with yesterday's results and this weekend schedule on the rundown.
This is the rundown.
Lock and load, gang. It is time for your Friday rundown, and that means we give you your Thursday results. We wind back the clock to a game that took place during our broadcast yesterday. Major League Baseball scoreboard starts with the Diamondbacks defeating the Braves. 11-10 was that final. Houston with a late rain delay kind of, I think, got them to start that game late, but they stay up late and they get a nice win, 8-2 over the Pirates. We mentioned the Nashville Sounds. They do fall last night to Gwinnett, but it was a close game. 4-3 was your final there. Again, Gwinnett knocking off Nashville. WNBA scoreboard last night. A couple of wins in the books. One for a power, one for a up-and-coming power, perhaps. We'll have to see. But the Liberty knocked off the Mystics 86-78. And it was the Valkyries. Yes. Excuse me. I misread the scoreboard. I apologize. Shame on you, Valkyries. You didn't get a win, but for good reason. You went up to Phoenix Mercury, who are right there with the Liberty, among the best in the WNBA. The scoreboard was backwards on me. 86-77 was that final. Phoenix with the win over Golden State.
Today's schedule in Major League Baseball. Houston continues its road trip. They are at Cleveland. That is a 6:10 first pitch between the Astros and the Guardians at Progressive Field. 9:15 out on the West Coast. Well, it's 9:15 here, but the game is on the West Coast. Atlanta goes to San Francisco tonight. Again, that's a 9:15 start. You can see it both on the MLB Network and on FanDuel Sports. 6:35, again, we'll be talking to Jeff Hem here in the next segment, but the Sounds continue their series at First Horizon Park against the Gwinnett Stripers. You got fireworks, post-game fireworks tonight. Get on out there. Ooh, there we go. WNBA action tonight. Both these games can be seen on ION at 6:30. The Atlanta Dream travels north, taking on the Connecticut Sun. That game will be followed at 8:30 by a matchup between the LA Sparks and the Dallas Wings.
Let's roll you into Saturday now. Major League Baseball schedule coming your way at 3:05. The Braves will pick up that series versus the Giants. That will be shown yet again on the MLB Network as well as FanDuel Sports South. Astros and Guardians pick it up at 3:10. So 3:05 and 3:10, a couple of afternoon start times for your MLB squads there. Sounds action, you bet it. 6:35 tomorrow night. It'll be Margaritaville night. It'll also be Hit City Saturday. They'll have a beach towel giveaway. Basically, what we're trying to tell you, folks, is the Sounds and Stripers will be a popping spot over at First Horizon Park tomorrow. Again, 6:35 will be your first pitch time there. More baseball. NCAA Super Regionals crank up for Tennessee, who's at Arkansas. That game gets underway at 4 o'clock tomorrow. You can see that one on ESPN. Triple header in the WNBA. It'll be the Aces at Golden State. That game is scheduled for a 2 p.m. tip-off. You can see it on ABC. Indiana will be at Chicago. We mentioned this is the game they're playing in the United Center. Get in for a little bit cheaper these days if you want to go to that venue. But 7 o'clock will be your start time. They're going to show that one on CBS.
That's going to be tough, man, because how empty is the United Center going to be on national TV, on network TV, without Caitlin playing? Ooh. Man,
I mean, I guess you could take some solid. It'll kind of look like a Bulls regular season game, maybe at that point. I'm not real sure, but the United Center get in for cheap tomorrow. It seems like without Caitlin there. 7 o'clock that start time. 9 o'clock caps our WNBA triple header. It'll be Seattle at Phoenix, and again a 3-game slate in the WNBA. French Open, if you get up at 8 a.m. tomorrow, you can catch it on TNT or HBO Max. It'll be Ariana Sabalenka, the world's number 1, taking on Coco Gauff, the USA Phenom, the world's number 2. Again, that is the women's championship over at Roland Garros. That gets underway at 8 a.m. on Saturday.
Sunday slate, Major League Baseball action, Houston and Cleveland. Again, that's a 12:40 matchup on Sunday. You can see it on the MLB Network at 3:05 Sunday afternoon. The Braves and the Giants will go at it again. That one can be seen on FanDuel Sports. Over at First Horizon Park, Gwinnett and the Sounds will wrap up their 6-game series. That will be a 2:05 start on Sunday afternoon. Early Father's Day and BBQ. Interesting. Sunday Family Fun Day, and it's Lego Ninjago Make and Take. That sounds intriguing. I don't know what that's all about. We'll have to ask Jeff about that one when we get him on here in a few minutes.
Test his brick knowledge.
Exactly. All I know is stay away from Legos barefoot. Yeah, NCAA Super Regional action, Game 2 of the series over at Fayetteville between Tennessee and host Arkansas gets underway at 2 o'clock Sunday afternoon. That will be televised on ESPN. WNBA action on Sunday. Connecticut is at Washington against the Mystics. That's a 2 o'clock tip. And at 3, it'll be the Minnesota Lynx at the Dallas Wings. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes your rundown. Your top story brought to you, as always, by the fine folks at Piggly Wiggly in Neely's Mill in Columbia. Be sure and check out their delicious daily deli lunch options available from 11 a.m. until 6 p.m. Also, their hand-cut meats and everything is cost plus 10% at the cash register. Piggly Wiggly, Neely's Mill, Columbia, bringing you our top story. Wade, I will let you wade in on this pretty quickly, but Aaron Rodgers, longtime Green Bay Packers quarterback, former New York Jets quarterback, and that's where you come in, has agreed to terms with the Pittsburgh Steelers on a one-year deal. It was announced last night. He is set to attend the Steelers' mandatory minicamp next week, and will become the oldest Steeler ever at the age of 42. My first reaction when all of this talk kicked up and continues to be at this point, Aaron Rodgers, Mike Tomlin, how does that work? Because Aaron has been known to kind of do things a little differently, we'll say. And Tomlin hasn't necessarily had a whole lot of leeway for that kind of thing. So I'm just wondering what kind of marriage that is.
Yeah, I mean, that's the immediate question, right? Is how do they get along and how well does this kind of pan out? And we've seen Rodgers, kind of strong arm his way, shadow GM to an extent, especially last year in New York. Will he kind of be given some of that same leeway? That kind of flies in the face of everything we've been told our whole lives about Steelers culture, right? So we seem to be at a little bit of a crossroads. But on its surface, this is a great deal in my mind for Pittsburgh because you get a bridge quarterback for a year. You get a little bit better than average, even at this age, bridge quarterback for a year. Maybe not going to go out and win the Super Bowl with this guy. Then again, who knows? Their defense is pretty dang solid, so maybe he could be just dangerous enough to get you deep in the playoffs. But what this does is this kind of sets you up. You can maybe get some reps behind the scenes with Will Howard, who they took. We know what they obviously think about Mason Rudolph. He's a capable backup, if nothing else. And if things don't work out, short-term deal, you kind of get in that sweepstakes for any of those great quarterbacks that are supposedly coming out next year. So, it could be worse. It's felt like the worst-kept secret in all of sports for the last, 2 months. It feels like we've been held hostage by this storyline. But it will be interesting, and it will be compelling, and we will have no shortage of games and opportunities to see Rodgers, including that matchup we mentioned versus the Packers. That's either going to be on Sunday Night Football or Monday Night Football later this year.
It is. That's week 8. Week 1, it's Steelers at Jets. So we get a lot of the intrigue right out of the box there as far as that one goes. Last year was the worst year of Rodgers' career. Jets went 5-12. That's the most losses he had in a season. Threw for less than 3,900 yards. He threw for 28 touchdowns, 11 picks. He did become the 5th NFL quarterback to reach 500 career touchdown passes, but certainly this is not 4-time NFL MVP Aaron Rodgers that the Steelers are getting. And so I guess the question becomes, is what you are getting, is the orange, is the juice worth the squeeze?
Yeah, and that is the ultimate question, and it will play out kind of before our very eyes. They gave themselves, in my opinion, a better chance to win more games this year by making this move than rolling out your light between Rudolph or Howard. I think that is kind of, even at his age and even with a subpar kind of season last year by his standards, he's still better than what was available hypothetically on the scrap heap. Or at least what was rumored to be available, in terms of trades and whatnot. So feels like this could be okay. And again, it kind of just comes down to where you view Pittsburgh in this season, entering this season. Obviously, we know the Ravens are extremely loaded. The Bengals always certainly have a capable offense. Not sure about their defense. And the Browns, they're the Browns. So you assume at worst Pittsburgh's going to be gunning for third. And your kind of question becomes, how high can you maybe climb up the AFC ladder? Rodgers was pretty bad. Obviously, we know his first season was pretty much a wash with the injury. Last year, the offensive line for the Jets, not necessarily the greatest. Not that Pittsburgh's was elite. I think they were right around halfway in terms of Pro Football Focus offensive line rankings. But if you don't ask Rodgers to do a ton, I can see this working out and being okay. And it may end up just being kind of like what we've seen from Russell Wilson and, insert quarterback here ever since Big Ben has stepped away. You don't got to be great. We just need you to be kind of average and kind of serviceable, and the defense and the weapons can kind of take care of the rest. Throwing to DK Metcalf certainly won't hurt. Throwing to Robert Woods, even at an elderly age, won't hurt. So I'm kind of fascinated to see how it plays out.
The DK Metcalf aspect of this, I think, is not something to be overlooked either. I mean, that gives you a threat anywhere on the field if you can just get him the ball. And, a lot of people seem to feel like Metcalf is an upgrade over George Pickens, who is now in Dallas. So see how that works out. But yeah, you got at least one weapon there for Rodgers to work with, and I'm just concerned with the locker room. I really am. Because when you bring a guy in like that with the background and everything that comes with, I got questions, but we'll see how it goes, clearly. And
yeah, we'll see how it goes. And I mean, we will get our answer. Is the Steelers culture a real thing? Because if it is, and it doesn't work out, there will only be one man left standing at the end. Well, I'll take that back. There might not be. This could end up right. This could end up with Rodgers and Tomlin gone. We're already, you enter that combo every year with him, Tomlin, that is. So I can see both, not being there. I could also see, if things don't go, it doesn't feel like we've been told our whole lives, again, that the Steelers are the franchise that will not really kind of put up with a lot of this stuff. So we'll get our answer, and it will be fascinating as this year plays out.
Without question. Let's take a break here on the weekend warm-up edition of Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. When we come back, we'll be joined by Jeff Hem, the radio voice of the Nashville Sounds. Stick around.
Deep in a forest at Nashville Zoo, new creatures here for you to view. Phantoms graced in black and white swing high in trees of dappled light. In rocky crags, tall and steep, small antelopes with nimble feet. A wise old man with beard of white, a sentry perched on stony height. Amidst it all, a hunter lies, with coat of gold and steely eyes. A new adventure just for you. Leopard Forest at Nashville Zoo, opening June 20th.
Busy bee, yeah, busy bee. If you need
Hold on, y'all, hold on. I need to make a call. Hey, this is Brianna with Busy Bee. I'm giving you a call to let you know your technician is on his way.
333.
Busy bee. Guys, not yet. Not yet.
Busy bee, oh,
Now
busy
ready,
bee.
guys.
Call 775-7833.
Custom Stone Handlers supplies over 600 distributors and suppliers with quality stone products. Along with Riverstone, we produce and distribute over 100 building, landscape, and other bulk products. Our goal is to provide quality products, service, and partnerships to ensure our customers' success. We firmly believe the measure of any person or company is how you treat other people and customers. Give them a call at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStoneHandlers.com.
Welcome back into the weekend warm-up edition of Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. That's Wade Neely. I'm Maurice Patton, and joining us now is the play-by-play voice of the Nashville Sounds, Jeff Hem. Jeff,
hey guys,
good Friday. What's happening?
What's up?
It's going well. I'm doing well. Love Fridays and for life in general. Fridays at the ballpark, always good nights with post-game fireworks, and it's going to be a cool night here tonight. We're honoring the 250th anniversary of the Marine Corps, and there's going to be a pregame flyover. The Marine Corps band is going to perform tonight, so hopefully people get out here early, right at gates open at 5:30 tonight, because there's good stuff going on in addition to the post-game fireworks.
In addition to the post-game fireworks, that cannot be overlooked. Jeff, I want to ask you, though, what is Early Father's Day and BBQ on Sunday? What's that about?
Yeah, so the Sounds are on the road next Sunday in Norfolk for Father's Day. So we want fans to have the early opportunity to bring Dad to the ballpark this Sunday. And so there's an all-you-can-eat picnic buffet opportunity. You can get it bundled with your ticket for this Sunday's game as part of an early Father's Day celebration. So we're excited for that. It's one of our last couple of Sunday day games before we flip those to night games as it gets hotter and we get deeper into the summer. So a couple of Sunday matinees remaining, including this weekend, when we'll give people the early opportunity to celebrate Father's Day.
That's cool. Also, Lego Ninjago Make and Take.
Yes, Ninjago actually is the pronunciation.
Ninjago. Oh, excuse me. Okay, thank you.
I wouldn't know it if I didn't have young children, and that's so.
There you go.
I'm not a Lego expert. I'm like a sous chef when Legos are involved. I'm just the supporting cast. But it's an activation coming to the ballpark on Sunday. It's been out before, as I recall, I think last year, certainly at some point in years prior, where fans can go out to a spot in the ballpark and build some Legos and see some Lego-related characters from the Ninjago movie and strike their best warrior pose. We're going to have some fun things going on out near the Guitar Scoreboard on Sunday as part of a Lego Ninjago activation. So there you go.
Ninjago, not Ninjago.
Yes.
There we go.
Can we get a Lego version of Booster at some point in the future, though? I feel like that would do numbers.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Maybe we'll see. Maybe Sunday, if there's enough Legos to build, somebody can build a booster. I like that idea. You're always on it, man. Wade, you've always got these. I heard you with Adam English the other day. You've got these promotional ideas swirling. What was it? The Main Street. Which dog type was going to be the dog of the game?
Yeah, Main Street employee / German Shepherd of the game.
Yes.
And Adam pointed out, it's oddly specific. Not saying it's me. But just flashing them on the scoreboard at some point throughout the game would be a nice touch. I feel like it'd be good for everybody.
You're asking for a friend. You're asking not for you. You're asking for a friend. Yeah.
Somewhat related. I've not heard back from Adam on that, so we'll see.
Oh, I'm sure he's sending it up the flagpole to get approval from Major League Baseball. That's why that's where the hang up is on that, Wade. I think we should hear soon.
Thank you for putting me at ease there.
That makes sense. Jeff, it sounds like this team has been a lot of fun to watch to this point, 35-24 going into tonight's action, and it sounds like most of it has kind of been pitching centric.
Yeah, that's definitely the case. This is in many stats, including ERA, this is the number one pitching staff in all of AAA baseball among 30 teams. It's been led by its pitching, and within that, there's been movement quite a bit because the Brewers, especially early in the year, were dealing with all kinds of injuries. Chad Patrick is still up there. He's pitching tonight for the Brewers, but Logan Henderson's been up a couple of times in his back. Tobias Myers was arguably their best pitcher last year, and he's down here right now because they've gotten some guys back up there and things have stabilized. The Brewers are in this good problem to have situation where they don't have spots for everybody in that rotation. So the Sounds reap the benefits of that, having Logan down here, having Tobias Myers, who pitched really well last night. Jacob Mizorowski has been so much fun to watch this year, one of the top pitching prospects in baseball. He's pitching tonight. A couple of weeks ago, hit 103 on the radar gun, and routinely is triple digits. But his other parts of the arsenal have really come along this year. His command has been great. So he's truly a pitcher and not just relying on the gas. So he's been fun to watch, and the pitching staff really has done a great job. The offense has had its spurts and is okay. It's not leading the league in any category, but when the pitching has been as good as it has, they're not asking for much. And it is a fun offense to watch, mainly because the Sounds are one of the best base stealing teams in all of AAA. And I've talked with you guys in years past about all these different rule changes that Major League Baseball has implemented over the last few years. Well, one of them being the limitation on the number of times a pitcher can pick off. That was all geared to increase action and increase base stealing most specifically. And the Brewers build their teams to take advantage of that. They do it at the big league level. They're one of the best teams in baseball analytically at taking the extra base and creating pressure on the defense with their base running. And so when these Sounds get on, they are going to run. They've got 6 guys on this offense who already have 10-plus steals. There are 7 AAA teams that don't have anybody with 10-plus steals. The Sounds have half a dozen guys with 10-plus steals. So they are going to go, and they've got a high success rate. So, and you need that in this ballpark especially. This is not known as a hitter-friendly ballpark. If anything, it leans pitcher-friendly. So you've got to be able to make some things happen. And this offense is fun to watch when guys get on, and you know they're going to go. You know the pitcher can only do so much about it. And more times than not, they've been successful. So it's really been a fun team to cover these first couple months. When you're in a 20-team league with an unbalanced schedule, it is really hard to make the postseason. I do want to remind our fans, because people have been asking me the last couple of days, they're looking at the standings and saying, hey, Sounds are in first place. Does that mean they'll clinch a first-half playoff spot? It's not about the division. It's about the league standings. And unfortunately, the Sounds, while really good, are third with 16 to play in the first half, the mathematical first half, and they're 7.5 games out. So it is very unlikely that they're going to have a first half playoff spot, even though in their division, they're at the top. For making the AAA postseason, the division essentially does not matter. So it's a really good team that's probably going to fall short in the first half, but bright prospects for the second half, winning a lot of games and really doing it with pitching and aggressive base running most of all.
Jeff Ham of the Nashville Sounds joining us here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. You mentioned Mizorowski was recently named the Brewers Pitcher of the Month for May. We talked with Adam a little bit about that, but again, to your point, he's far from the only guy getting it done. Tobias Myers with a quality start last night, 6 innings, 9 Ks, and took a tough loss there, but It seems like anybody that they send out is capable of that. Now, you said Mizorowski tonight. Is it Mizorowski or is it Henderson? Because
we just got word. I don't know what if it's a mix-up or a miscommunication, or it was listed this way all along. We just got word about an hour ago that it's Mizorowski tonight, Henderson tomorrow. So from the order we had initially, it has flip-flopped. I don't know why, but confirmed. You're right. The game recap from last night, as at that point, had Henderson. But it will be Miz tonight, which was the order last week. It was Mizorowski, then Henderson. But Jacob was on 4 days rest, and so I thought maybe tonight it was still going to be Henderson to give Mizorowski the extra day. But something behind the scenes from Brewers pitching development has made a switch, or it was that way all along and it got communicated incorrectly from the get-go. From covering this level, Mo, they're called probables for a reason.
Oh, there we go. Yeah, well, Mizorowski, Henderson, potato. I mean, Henderson is 5-1 with a 2.18 ERA to this point. Like you said, it hasn't mattered where the mound was, whether at the major league level or at the AAA level. He's been getting it done, and to see a guy put together the kind of season that he is having, at multiple levels, and I guess a lot of times not knowing which level he's going to be at from one start to the next, it's pretty impressive.
Yeah, it's really impressive. Logan and Jacob are two very different pitchers. Logan Henderson's going to be 93, 94 velocity wise on the fastball. He's got a phenomenal changeup, and he really can go with just those two pitches in a lot of situations. And the changeup is so good. He doesn't have to fool you. He just gives you strikes in the zone, and guys don't touch him. Mizorowski can overpower you because he can hit triple digits. But to Jacob's credit, he wants to be great, and he wants to be a pitcher, and he's always had a good curveball. He has really worked these last couple of years to make his changeup better and better. He's starting to use it more and more. I mean, imagine stepping into the box and knowing the guy who's pitching to you. First of all, he's long and lanky, like he looks like he's going to reach out and touch you when he's delivering the pitch. You've got to be ready for a 101 mile per hour fastball, but you've got to now know that in the back of your mind, it could look like 101 coming out of the hand, but that's the 91 mile per hour changeup. Good luck. And so Jacob is not just I know I throw hard and I'll see how far I can get with that in this game. He wants to be a pitcher. He wants to have a full arsenal. He knows if he wants to be a big league starter, he needs more than just the fastball. You need more than 2 and 3 pitches. 4 is certainly ideal. And he wants that. And he's, for these guys being 22, 23, 24 years old, some of these prospects on this team, they get it. They understand what it's going to take at the next level to not just get there, but to sustain it. And that's not the case, for everybody across this game. A lot of guys just kind of believe they've got the raw talent and they'll just let that go. But these guys are cerebral. They want to sequence. They want to think. They want to make sure the batter has to guess. They really are well-rounded pitchers for a fairly young age. It's pretty fun to watch.
Jeff, as you kind of go through that, it kind of just popped in my brain. I'm curious, maybe you're a little more familiar with a guy that perhaps gets sent back down to you, but I'm kind of curious, you as a play-by-play voice, how much prep or how aware of you are guys that could be potentially coming up, and kind of how does that process work as you try and insert your notes and your knowledge kind of into your broadcast for it could be a one-start deal or it could be, be a guy that's with you for a while?
Sure. Yeah. From my standpoint, I certainly am keeping an eye on the AA Biloxi team at least a little bit every single day. And whether that's looking at their box score, the Brewers media relations staff does a great job sending out a daily minor league report to all the affiliates with kind of the news and notes and the transactions of all the affiliates. Certain guys, are definitely on your radar. I've learned, though, in the last few years, I don't want to get, especially on the air, I don't want to get too much into the AA team because, like you said, you don't know when guys are going to come. And you see as often players being brought in from other organizations, whether it's a waiver claim or like Bobby Dahlbeck and Eddie Rosario were signed by the Brewers a few weeks ago as minor league free agents. We had seen Dahlbeck with Charlotte, but those two guys specifically were not necessarily, like, quote unquote, on my radar to start researching. And all of a sudden you hear the name and you see the transactions and you find out they're on your ball club, and then you start reading up. So you can't dive in too deeply on guys that aren't here because so many things can happen. And we've already got, 28 guys plus sometimes rehabbers and sometimes a couple guys on the injured list, and you're keeping an eye on those guys who are actively on your roster. So from a prep standpoint, you're aware of some of the big names, you're aware of who's doing well, but it's a tough roster to crack. There have not been, in the last 2-3 years, there've not been more than a handful of guys in a season who end up getting up from AA. It's tough to get a spot up here. And I know that their roster is a little bit thin down there, just like ours is, because organizations are limited in how many total guys they can have in their entire organization. So if you get to the max, and I'm blanking on what that number is, when you think of the 4 affiliates and extended spring and injured list, there's a max of literal number of guys you can have in your organization. And so if the Brewers today wanted to go put in a claim on somebody, but they weren't going to release somebody to make room for that player, they might not be able to bring that player in. So it's weird. There's a lot of movement up and down AAA to big leagues, and that's where most of the movement happens. It's a little bit more limited in bringing guys in from the outside and also bringing guys up from AA. We've only had a couple guys so far this year come up from AA Biloxi, and they're doing really well. It's not that they don't have deserving players. It's just that it's a tough puzzle to make fit. So that's kind of how I approach it from a prep standpoint. Don't dive in too deeply because even if I dive in deeply here on somebody we've got, the next day they could be somewhere else. And so you're always trying to thread that needle of prepared / over prepared, but you dive in too deeply and then you get word of a transaction and you're like, well, I'm glad I spent the hour on that deep dive for that guy. I'm going to save it. He could get reclaimed 5 months from now. He could be back. I save everything. You never know when those nuggets are going to come into play, but sometimes it's not always right away.
And I've seen it. I mean, there was a time, you've worked on feature stories on guys, and then before you can get them in, they're gone one way or the other. So, I mean, it's covering minor league baseball. It's a challenge to say the least. And nobody does it like Jeff Hem of the Nashville Sounds. Jeff, if Anthony Ziegler gets on base tonight, it will be 30 straight games in which he's done so.
Yep.
It's pretty amazing.
Man, he is so fun to watch. He has batted leadoff. He's batted cleanup. He's batted lower in the order. I asked Rick Sweet about it the other day, and he said, I bat him wherever we need him that day. If I need a cleanup hitter, I know he can do it. If I need a leadoff man, I know he can do it. Ziegler's been a great story. I mean, this is a former first-round pick as a high school catcher by the Yankees. Got as high as AA with the Yankees, now signing with the Brewers for this year. So still relatively young. He's last year he didn't catch as much. He's caught and played second base this year, but now he's also started to add third base to his repertoire because that's a spot where the Brewers have not gotten a ton of offense this year. So you think about Ziegler and the ability to play those three spots. It's an interesting dynamic. I mean, let's say the Brewers, for the sake of the example, let's say the Brewers called him up. They might mostly use him on the infield, but by value, you get a potential third catcher because Ziegler can catch. And that's a really valuable thing for a big league team to have someone who can be a third catcher, but is not just a catcher. So he brings an interesting skill set, his ability to get on base. He's hit for some power. He's a switch hitter. And he is also just one of those guys that, like, the old school baseball fan would love to watch. It is a dirty uniform is always dirty. He's playing through a small fracture in his finger. He only missed a few games after diving into second base and suffering a finger injury a few weeks ago. Got right back in there. It's a pain tolerance thing at this point. He just smiles and says, "I'm good. I'm fine. It's finger's fine. I'm in there. I'm going." He's a gamer. Those guys never get old, and he is playing his way onto the Brewers' radar, I have to think, because there's no part of his game that's been lacking so far this year. It's really been fun to watch. I mean, last night, I barely had time to mention the on-base streak, and he singled to start the bottom of the first inning, leading off, and it's like, okay, the streak has immediately moved along, and he got on base 2 more times as the game went on. It's becoming common for him to be on base about 3 or 4 times a night. It's pretty fun to watch.
And it's not like he's doing it with 1-for-4s and that kind of thing. He's hitting 402 apparently since the start of the streak in late April. That's the number 2 batting average in all of minor league baseball. So again, he's not doing it cheaply.
No, at one point it was what did it get up to? 15 game hitting streak and the on base streak, and then he didn't get a hit one night but drew a walk, and so the on base streak is gone. But I'd venture to guess, if I looked it up, I bet he's hit safely in I would guess he's hit safely in like 22, 23 of these 29 games. I mean, he has been just on a tear. And again, in the middle of it all, suffered a finger injury on the pinky of his right hand. And during that, he's missing a couple games. He's down in the bullpen, still catching guys warming up, and just somebody else would throw the ball back to the pitcher while he was resting that hand. I mean, he's still like, what can I do tonight? I'm not just going to put my feet up and have a night off, even if I'm banged up for a couple days. It's like I said, his style of play is noticeable. If you're a fan who comes to 1 or 2 games a year, and you'll notice Ziegler because of the style of play. It's pretty cool.
Jeff, you've been around this game for a long time. When you've got a guy like Eddie Rosario at this level, what do you feel like the Brewers' plans are for him? I know that there have been a lot of situations in the outfield, and there have been a lot of guys going up and back and that kind of thing. Is he a guy that can get up with Milwaukee, do you think, or what's the scenario there?
I think he could. I put him, and I mentioned Bobby Dahlbeck's name a couple of minutes ago too. They were signed right around the same time. They were signed at a point where the Brewers were, and still are, without Garrett Mitchell and without Blake Perkins, and needing a little bit of outfield depth. Christian Yelich is DHing a lot up there. Sal Frelick's playing every day. They've got Isaac Collins and Daz Cameron, two recent sounds up there in that outfield. But they, especially at that time when they brought in Rosario and Dahlbeck, they were a little thin. And when you bring in a guy like a Rosario, who's 33 years old, he's played over 1,100 games as a big leaguer, you're thinking of him as a, let's see if he can help our big league club. I personally, and just in my experience, you don't see those guys. There's usually an out clause, or there's usually some parameters that probably got set up behind the scenes with a player like that, where the Brewers will make a decision, fairly quickly on a guy, and then he might move on. I'd venture to guess that's what happened with Eddie when he started with the Dodgers this year, then back to the Braves very briefly, and then was a free agent again. So, yes, I can see him as a guy who could get up there. I could see Dahlbeck in that same vein. These are two guys who've got big league time, have had not just big league time, but I mean, they both had a 30-homer season in the big leagues on multiple occasions, or Dahlbeck at least 20 plus homers a couple of times in the big league. So you're looking for a quick fix is not the right word, but like you're looking for let's send him to AAA. Let's give him a few weeks. Let's see what's there, see how they do, see what changes or doesn't change with us at the big league level. And then typically it's either yep, we're ready to bring you up, or doesn't look like it's going to work out here. Do you want to be released, for example? Like that does happen. Teams try to do right by the player. They'll go to him and say, look, whether your out clause is here or not, like, here's what we're thinking. So I don't know what the specifics are with Rosario, but with he and Dahlbeck, you have to think they were viewed as potential big league outfielders and probably not long-term AAA guys, especially in the case of Rosario, just given the resume.
Rosario's on-base streak is exactly half that of Ziegler's, 15 right now, with a walk last night in the opening inning. Has reached in all 15 games that he's played with the Sounds. And so, again, he is showing himself to be at least serviceable, at least at this level. It's going to be interesting, I would think, to see just how long he does hang around if he doesn't get up with the Brewers. I mean, to your point, a lot of major league service time, and if he can't get up here, you would think he's going to want to try to do it elsewhere. So,
well, and especially just a quick button up on that, just especially because you gave the numbers, he is performing well down here. It's different if he were hitting 190 with the Sounds. In other words, if the Brewers don't have a spot, if I'm Eddie Rosario, I'm thinking, well, look how I've done at AAA. Somebody else might. And so if you're Eddie, you're thinking, hey, here's what I got. Here's the cards I've got in my hand. And right now it's a really successful stat line at AAA. So he's proving that he can still hit. And if it's not going to be with the Brewers, if you're Rosario, you might want that opportunity to look at one of the other 27 organizations he's not been with yet this year.
Finish up the series again Sunday against Gwinnett. Where are we off to from there, Jeff? Norfolk.
Off to Norfolk, Virginia.
Okay. All right. Taking on the Tides, the Orioles AAA affiliate. The Orioles have struggled this year. How are the Tides?
The Tides have struggled this year. I don't know. I know we're not here to talk Orioles baseball, but I can't figure them out, man. I mean, you go from looking like you're going to be a juggernaut for a while, and it's just they just have not hit this year. They had some brutal injuries, and the Tides are they still have some Orioles prospects on that team because Baltimore's farm system is still good, but the Orioles farm system is not rated as highly because just about everybody on the Baltimore roster was a prospect 2 years
Right.
ago, and it's hard to keep pedaling that bike to churn out prospects because they're all up there: Cowser and Mayo and Holiday and Rutschman, and we all know the names if we're following big league ball. So there are some interesting young players on that Norfolk team, but their record is under 500 by a decent margin, just like their parent clubs.
Sounds good. Jeff Him, the voice of the Nashville Sounds, joining us here on Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. Jeff, always great catching up with you, man. Look forward to doing so again soon.
Appreciate you guys. And Mo, you didn't mention the nickname of the team we're playing tonight.
You pointed it out the last time we talked, and I thought, maybe I've beaten that horse enough. But I mean, it goes back to a game that I went to at First Horizon when the Sounds were playing the Gwinnett Stripers, Stripers, and someone was pronouncing it. They had an alternate pronunciation for it. And
oh my!
Yeah. So I'm like, no, that's not it. It's 1P. So that's where that came from. Yeah. So
well, I was hoping you would bring it up because I mean, if we can laugh about it, who cares about anything else? I mean, come on, let's entertain ourselves here. I'm entertained by it. So sorry for downgrading the show to get that reference back.
Oh no, not at all.
Much appreciated.
Absolutely. Jeff, we'll catch up, man.
All right, fellas. Have a great weekend.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you.
See you.
Let's take a break. When we come back here on the weekend warm-up edition of Main Street Sports today, we will talk a little bit more baseball, and we'll talk about a team that sounds a lot like that Baltimore Orioles team that Jeff was just talking about a second ago. Stick around.
If you want the latest in weather conditions, be sure to tune in to our Busy Bee Plumbing weather report each weekday on Mornings on Main Street. Brought to you, of course, by Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating and Air Conditioning. We will keep you updated on the latest conditions outside, like severe weather, heat, snow, rain, and even hail.
Zion Christian Academy at zioneagles.org or 931-388-7531. You can schedule your appointment to visit their beautiful campus. Again, zioneagles.org or 931-7531 to schedule your visit today.
June 6, 2019, Dallas Keuchel signed a one-year, $13 million deal with the Atlanta Braves, hoping to bolster a pitching staff that saw 11 different starters over the course of the season. In 19 starts, Keuchel went 8-8 with a .375 earned run average, striking out 91 in 112 2/3 innings after posting 4 double-digit win totals across 7 seasons with the Astros. signed the following offseason with the White Sox and has been with 4 additional teams since. That was this day in Braves history. And after yesterday's game, the pitching staff saw yet another shakeup, and not amongst starters, but it was. We talked about this game some yesterday, and so I don't want to talk too much about it at this point. But Atlanta, after leading 6-0 through 3, wound up dropping an 11-10 loss to visiting Arizona. The Diamondbacks scoring 7 runs in the 9th against former Brave Scott Blewett and Braves closer Raziel Iglesias. So, again, up 6-0 going into the 4th. Grant Holmes gives up 3, doesn't get out of the 4th. Still, though, the Braves are leading 10-4 going into the 9th. Now, again, 10-4 going into the 9th inning. Arizona had been in that situation on 416 previous occasions and had lost in each of those, trailing by 6 or more heading into the 9th. They were 0-4-16. Atlanta had won its last 766 games, leading by 6 going into the 9th. Their last loss was in July of 1973 when they took a 7-1 lead into the 9th against the New York Mets and lost 8-7.
Willie Mays had the go-ahead hit in that game.
Yeah, quite possibly. He
did, according to Grant McCauley, at least.
Oh. Well, there you go.
I mean, yeah, we're talking about, so that gives some real context there.
It does give you some real context as to what took place yesterday. I mean, they had lost the previous game to Arizona on Wednesday. They lost 2-1, and we've been lamenting the lack of offense. Well, they scored 10 runs yesterday. They had 12 hits. They had 3 home runs. They had 4 doubles. Every starter had at least 1 hit. Michael Harris, who has been terrible at the plate here of late, had a pair of hits, drove in a run, and it's yesterday that the pitching decides to blow a gasket. So, what do you do other than, again, release Scott Blewett, who had been fairly solid before yesterday? Daisbel Hernandez goes to the IL with a pinky situation. Apparently had some numbness in the pinky on his pitching hand. He goes on the IL. Blewett's gone. Craig Kimball comes up. Dylan Dodd comes up in an attempt to try to shore up that bullpen, and they go out to San Francisco. Braves are 27-34 heading west. The Giants 35-28. It'll be Spencer Schwellenbach, 4-4 with a 3.13 ERA, making the start for the Braves tonight. Hayden Birdsong, former Eastern Illinois pitcher. Hayden Birdsong, 3-1 with a 2.37 going for the Giants. And man, apparently I didn't get to hear it because I was a little busy at the end of the game yesterday, but Tom Glavine says, you hope this is rock bottom. And I'm glad he kind of qualified it there because, you can see a light at the end of the tunnel, but it might be a train. I mean, you do hope that this is rock bottom for this team, but I don't know necessarily what there is that you hang that on either.
Yeah, let's just think about it, right? If you're talking about something being worse than giving up 7 in the 9th inning, then you don't want any part of that.
None.
That is literally about as bad as it can get. So now the question will be is how high can you return from where you're at currently after kind of fighting all the way back to around 500, above 500 for a stretch there? I mean, how do you dig out? And again, the wild card will be your path if you're talking about postseason play. So you're going to have to start picking off teams here, picking off teams there. But first, you got to take care of a little bit of business. Good news, San Francisco has not been swinging the bat. I watched a little bit of their game last week versus the Padres, and they could not get a hit to save their life. Lost in extra innings, 1-0 to the Padres. So the run support hadn't been there for them. Maybe that's a little way to craft a victory because, Atlanta's getting desperate right now.
They really are. And, I think San Francisco has kind of gone through some roster redesign of their own. I think they made some transactions yesterday, kind of shaking up some spots offensively. So we'll see what they look like tonight. We'll see what the Braves look like. Get you a nap because, again, it is a 9:15 start tonight as they are playing out there on the West Coast. Houston picks up a series win against Pittsburgh with yesterday's 8-2 victory. Framber Valdez getting his 5th straight victory. 11 strikeouts in 7 innings. Isaac Paredes with a pair of home runs for the Astros in that win at PNC Park.
Yeah, good win for them. 3.5-hour delay, but they finally got it in and they got the dub. That's their first road series win since back in April. So it had been a stretch for them getting one on the road. So kind of starting to turn a little bit of a corner. I'm not even as an optimist and as a fan, I'm not just going to get really excited about beating the Pirates. Other than the fact you got Skeens in game 1, you did drop the second game there as we discussed yesterday. So got a game and a half up on the Mariners. Be nice to see them kind of continue a little mojo here. And again, if they could just get to the All-Star break, it'll be fascinating. If they can really get to the trade deadline, kind of get some guys healthy, kind of see where you're at. I'll be fascinated to see if they kind of push their chips in the middle and make a move again like we've seen them do before.
6:10 tonight, they begin their series at Cleveland. The Guardians coming in at 33-28. Houston 34-28 with that win yesterday. Rookie Colton Gordon will get the start for the Astros. He's lost his only decision. He's got an ERA of just under 6 at 5.95. Logan Allen will get the ball for the Guardians, 3-3 with a 4.22. So, coming out of Pittsburgh with a little momentum, but the Guardians are not the Pirates, to Wade's point.
Yeah, they've underachieved, but they're a dangerous team. Yeah, they are not the Pirates by any stretch. So going on the road yet again, can you make it 2 road series wins in a row? Be kind of an interesting case study coming out of this. But yeah, Cleveland has underachieved, but they've underachieved from a high level. We're not talking about the underachieving that the Pirates have kind of done thus far. So Houston kind of got to step their game up. Be fun to watch them here. They've been on a little bit of a nice stretch.
Yeah. We talked about Lance McCullers, one of the Astros starters coming back from an arm injury that had him out all of last year. His second start back in mid-May did not go so well. And someone actually issued a death threat to McCullers and his family coming out of that May 10th start. Well, the Houston Police Department has tracked that down, and apparently a man located outside the United States who was intoxicated and had gambled on a game was the one who had made those threats. That kind of sounds like the Triple Crown. Yeah,
intox, gambling, social media. That nothing good comes from it. That combination right there, to say the least.
McCullers gave up 7 runs in a third of an inning in that game. And I guess during that or after he came out of the game, but before the post game was when the threat was issued, because after the game, he said, "I understand people are very passionate and people love the Astros and love sports, but threatening to find my kids and murder them is a little bit tough to deal with." That's pretty harsh. He has had 24-hour security since then. He's pitched a lot better, but again, they have found out who the person is. No charges have been filed apparently, but he has apologized and asked that his apology be relayed to McCullers and his family.
Yeah, I love that. McCullers said, will you file charges? He said, well, he lives overseas, so he's not really pressing the issue, and maybe he lit a fire under old Lance. Seems obviously did well versus Skeens the other night, and this is a tough story, and obviously this is the real seedy underbelly like I said, with social media plus gambling kind of being so prevalent. Not great. I mean, there are numbers of videos you can go out and watch where athletes talk about these certain situations that they are in on a nightly basis. That mix is not good. You got instant access at your phone to bet on games, and you got instant access to chirp at people online. It is not a good situation, and hopefully everything gets resolved the way it's kind of supposed to.
Yeah. Let's take a break as we close hour number 1 of the weekend warm-up edition of Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. When we come back for hour number 2, we'll get into the grab bag. Stick around. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50-plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Zion Christian Academy at zioneagles.org or 931-388-7531. You can schedule your appointment to visit their beautiful campus. Again, zioneagles.org or 931-7531 to schedule your visit today. Custom Stone Handlers supplies over 600 distributors and suppliers with quality stone products. Along with Riverstone, we produce and distribute over 100 building, landscape, and other bulk products. Our goal is to provide quality products, service, and partnerships to ensure our customers' success. We firmly believe the measure of any person or company is how you treat other people and customers. Give them a call at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStoneHandlers.com.
Piggly Wiggly, located in Neely's Mill Shopping Center, is Columbia's locally owned and operated Cost Plus 10 grocery store dedicated to serving the community with low prices and smiling faces. Piggly Wiggly offers fresh, hand-cut meats daily as well as daily hot plate lunches from their deli counter. You're certain to see smiling faces and a helping hand when you're here at Piggly Wiggly. Come by and check out our fresh produce, high-quality meats, and more. Down home, down the street, we'll see you at the Pig.
Hour number 2 of the weekend warm-up edition of Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, starts right now. That's Wade Neely. I'm Maurice Patton, and it will not be a sweep. It could still be a gentleman's sweep, but the Pacers...
Well, it might be a sweep.
That's a good point.
It might be a sweep.
I'll tune in tomorrow night and we'll see. Surely not. What I mean, don't you? If you feel like the Pacers had OKC's full attention, but this kind of ups the ante at this point, doesn't it? For the Thunder, has to.
Yeah.
Right?
You would think so. Yeah, last night, an embarrassing loss, kind of a mind-boggling loss for the Thunder. And, man, we find the Pacers yet again kind of had them right where they wanted them, down 11. Indiana's like, okay, you know, we're comfy in this spot. And in the blink of an eye, OKC sees the lead melt away. They get outscored in the fourth quarter, 35-25. And Halliburton comes up with the stones yet again, rattling one in with 0.3 of a second. And the Pacers definitely, considering the way the game played out, feel like they stole game one. And, man, you wanted to get one of the first two. Maybe you get one, in game number 2 is what I was thinking if there was. But, man, they got it right out of the gate, and suddenly we have a little bit of a series on our hands.
Yeah, you know what they say. It's not a series until the road team wins one. Indiana made it a series right out of the box, like you said. And Halliburton's 3 game winners inside the final 5 seconds in this postseason is something that nobody else has done, according to a note that I saw on the socials. So, I mean, if y'all know of anybody else that's done it, let us know and we will retract. But that guy's had a hell of a postseason already, and he ain't done yet.
Yeah, and I mean, last night really was kind of the icing on the cake. You know, maybe you give him a lean toward the buzzer beater or pseudo buzzer beater versus the Knicks, where he runs back and shoots one from distance there, toe on the line. Otherwise, it is a pure game winner. But yeah, last night gets the rebound, gets pushed up, and man, he's got Cason Wallace draped all over him. I mean, I don't know how much better. You know, we can debate whether Cason Wallace is the guy you want guarding Halliburton, but he had pretty good D on him. Halliburton with a near double clutch rattles it in. And OKC, they tried a little lob at the basket that was swatted away. And wow, what a collapse by the Thunder. But more importantly, in my mind, what a win for the Pacers last night.
I think that's the way you have to look at it. I mean, with all due respect to the Thunder, it feels like, and everybody that we've talked to, you, Matt Moore yesterday, everybody is pretty unanimous on the fact that, the Pacers are kind of punching above their weight a little bit, and they landed a haymaker last night.
Yeah, and this is a game that it's a true head scratcher. And again, we saw OKC with a big lead late, and I only got to watch the fourth quarter last night, but in that fourth quarter, I'm just rubbing my eyes every second saying, what on earth are the Thunder doing? We saw them make mistakes, and we saw lineup combinations that we haven't really seen all postseason in the biggest moments of the season. And we saw guys just wilting. They got crushed on the boards last night, out-rebounded 56-39, which is defies the laws of physics seemingly with that team. Chet Holmgren was an absolute shell of himself. He had a poor game, and they still got, ample time to recover. But yet again, it kind of felt like another, just like last year and a time or two this postseason, it felt like the bright lights kind of got to the Thunder a little bit last night.
Yeah, how do you feel about the schedule, Wade? Game number 2 is not tomorrow, but Sunday. Extra day, any type of – is that any kind of factor here?
I don't know if it's a factor other than maybe get some, guys just some extra rest. Yeah, the NBA, they're prone. They drag this puppy out. So we could be here for 2 weeks if this goes 7. But man, Indiana got the game. And again, Halliburton didn't even necessarily have his best game in terms of scoring. He finished with 14 points. Every Pacer starter, though, was in double figures last night, which was massive. We saw the guys just like we've seen all postseason. We saw Neesmith bury a couple of three three-pointers, as a matter of fact. Nembhard had some big shots. Miles Turner with a big game, nearly a double-double. They all kind of got contributions. Then Obi Toppin, I don't know if you could have dreamed, and Matt told us yesterday it would kind of come down to the role players. Obi Toppin with 5 triples off the pine. Rick Carlisle did throw the kitchen sink at OKC, and on the flip side, OKC just kind of wilted in the moment. Now, I do think they are still clearly the better team on paper, but now all of a sudden this is on the verge of not being a series that's played on paper anymore. You really start to have doubts about if there's some higher powers at play here, because the Pacers are just on this dream run right now.
Halliburton with 14 points, also 10 boards, one of 3 double-doubles for the Pacers in this one. Again, Siakam with 19 and 10, Neesmith with 10 and 12. Nice performance from the former Commodore there. Ben Shepherd, 3 points, 2 boards. Knocked down his one of his 2 3-point attempts went down. So getting a lot of contributions from a lot of different places, which is kind of what they've done throughout this postseason.
Absolutely. And, to OKC's credit, Lou Dort had 5 triples last night, but Jalen Williams I'm not going to say he wilted in the moment. We're seeing what kind of some folks maybe, if there was going to be a question about OKC, we know this is a superstar-driven league, but you feel like you really need that rock-solid number 2. Mm-hmm. Is Jalen Williams the rock-solid number 2? I don't think a lot of folks would put him in that category just yet. And so if you don't have that pure number 2 guy to go along, that Batman and Robin type dynamic there,
right,
a team effort like we saw from Indiana could be enough to get you. And we saw, Coach Mark Dutton last night. I mean, again, he was mixing with the rotations, and we saw some guys kind of getting minutes down the stretch. Maybe it was because Holmgren was playing so poorly, but he's not even in there at key stretches of the game. Casey Wallace is your defender on Halliburton at the end. It was just a putrid performance in the late stages of that game by OKC. And we roll into this weekend, kind of game on all of a sudden.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they respond. Again, with the 2 days off, to me, I mean, is this one of those where they storm back and throw up a 30-point win this time around and actually step on Indiana's neck when they're up 10, 12, 15 in the third quarter and finish it off? I'm intrigued by how they come back immediately.
Yeah, to me, it feels like that is the more likely outcome. I think OKC comes out and just goes guns a-blazing and shoots for a massive, massive victory. I think they take this and they go back, and it's one of those games you don't really want to watch the tape. You watch it maybe one time and then you burn it because everything kind of went wrong for them, especially in the final 4 minutes. But it does feel like if they're going to come back, they're going to make a massive statement this weekend. And then Indiana, I mean, this is now the age-old question, right? You got game 1. Do you sell out for game 2, or is suddenly, you want to get 1 in OKC? Well, you got the 1 now. How hard do you go for that win in game number 2? That will be kind of the other fun kind of chess match between the coaching staffs there.
Yeah, and it feels like you've almost got to go for it in game 2 because you don't want to be on the receiving end of one of those patented Thunder butt whippings going back home.
You don't. And I mean, OKC is, I wouldn't say wobbled just yet, but they certainly got caught flush with a haymaker last night. I don't think they're wobbled. If somehow they come out and drop game 2, yeah, they are now clearly on the ropes. Because again, it feels like all the stats and all the talent are heavily in favor of OKC, but that kind of has, to my original point, it's kind of seemingly gone out the window. It hadn't quite gone out the window all the way just yet. But if they drop a second game, it does feel like vibes will kind of take over. And suddenly, just like we saw in the Cavs series and just like we saw after they stole game 1 versus New York, it will be the Pacers potentially grabbing their first championship.
Yeah. Game 2 of the Stanley Cup final tonight in Edmonton. It's the Panthers trying to get off the ice and maybe get this thing tied as they head home. 7 o'clock start on TNT. Thoughts, Mr. Neely?
Hopefully another barn burner. If it's anything remotely close to what we got on Wednesday, we're in store for a dandy. Looking forward to a epic showdown. Draisaitl had 2 goals the other night. I just mentioned the Batman and Robin dynamic. You got him. Leon Draisaitl is good enough to be the number 1 on a lot of teams in the NHL, but you got him right behind McJesus. And so the fact you've got those 2 playing at such a high level, I will not be shocked if the Panthers do kind of come out and show some spine, though, and maybe get back in this series. But it kind of just feels, who knows, maybe we get the reverse, right? Maybe the Oilers go up 3-0 this year, and then the Panthers try and force the game 7.
Yeah, we talked earlier this week about Tom Thibodeau getting fired by the Knicks after leading them to their first Eastern Conference Finals appearance in, 25 years? The Dallas Stars said, hold my beer. Pete DeBoer gone after 3 straight Western Conference Finals appearances. Had been there since 2022. Had a year left on his contract, and the Stars said, we appreciate your services. Go clean out your office. Man, I don't know. I don't know. Maybe I don't know enough about hockey to have a feel for just how significant this is. I mean, were the Dallas Stars supposed to win the Stanley Cup this year? I don't know, but that feels a little over the top to me.
Yeah, I mean, that's part of pro sports, right? I mean, it is a what have you done for me lately biz. And Dallas, they have a cup, but it came back in 98, 99, and they have not been to the Stanley Cup but just one other time since then, back in 1920. So, I mean, I kind of get it. I kind of don't, right? I mean, on one hand, you've raised the bar so high. It's a true dilemma because you raise the bar so high, everybody gets used to that success. But when you can't break through, when you can't get them to the Stanley Cup Finals, then it's like, okay, well, now if you can't do it, we appreciate what you've done. Thank you for your services, but we got to find the person that maybe can. It does seem a little quick, man. And hockey is such a weird sport because it seems like seasons fluctuate left and right. We don't see sustained success very often, it feels like, in that sport for some reason. And best of luck to you, whoever the replacement is.
Yeah, well, I mean, you know what the expectations are going in there, apparently, but so there's that. But here's the thing. Recently, Dallas Stars owner Tom Gagliardi rejected speculation about whether or not DeBoer was in jeopardy. Are you kidding me? He's a top 3, top 5 coach in the league. I'm just one voice in the discussion. You're the owner, dude. I'm just one voice in the discussion, but I don't see firing Pete being on anyone's agenda. Well,
quick hook.
I don't know how that goes. Man, that's unfortunate to me. But DeBoer was 9-0 in Game 7s, but the Stars ended the regular season on a 7-game losing streak, and the postseason, while they advanced to the conference finals, it wasn't easy. So I don't know. 149-68 was DeBoer in Dallas.
Yeah, and it was an interesting. I mentioned this a couple times about the Western Conference Finals. It felt like they had all the momentum going into that series versus Edmonton. I was kind of surprised that it ended up the way that it did. It felt like they just fizzled. I don't know if there was a locker room issue. I don't know if they just literally ran out of gas, what happened, but they did kind of, at least from what I'd seen, what we had seen them do versus Vegas in the round before, it felt like they did kind of underachieve a little bit. I don't know that would have been enough if I was the owner to make a change at that point, but man, quick hook, like I said.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Boston and Pittsburgh have each announced their new coaching hires here over the last 24 hours or so. Marco Sturm is the new guy in Boston, replaces Jim Montgomery. Replaces permanent coach Jim Montgomery, who was fired early in the season. And then Joe Sacco had served as interim coach, but Marco Sturm is the new guy in Boston. Former forward for the Bruins, played 5 of his 15 seasons in Boston and has been on various benches as an assistant. So Boston's got their guy. Pittsburgh has named Dan Muse as its new coach. So the only opening in the NHL, apparently, is in Dallas.
High profile opening. I mean, in theory, you could at least, attract a decent candidate. To your point, though, about Boston, talk about sky high expectations. They feel like a quick hook situation as well after finishing 8th. I mean, they had a putrid season this year, not making the playoffs. Very proud and successful franchise. It won't be met with you won't be looking at your entire length of your contract if you don't come up with some wins early there.
We've not talked portal in a minute. We've not talked Vanderbilt basketball in a minute. Let's do both. The Commodores have added an 8th guy out of the portal, but you won't see him much in 25-26. George Kimball is transferring in from Eastern Kentucky. He's a guard who underwent knee surgery earlier this season and will miss the entire 25-26 campaign. But in 24-25, he averaged 18 points, 3 assists, and 2.5 steals, was named a second-team All-Atlantic Sun Conference performer for the Colonels. Again, suffered a season-ending knee injury in early February and will be out all of the upcoming season. Had a 24-point game in December against Louisville. So Oh, and is a cousin of former UT Trek sprinter Justin Gatlin.
He might have some assistance then in how do I say this, getting recovered quickly, if you catch my drift there a little bit. I may hit up Cuz and say, hey, I need to get back on the court quick. What can you do for me? He said, I got just the thing.
Hashtag IYKYK. Yeah, Vanderbilt again going heavy in the transfer portal heading into Mark Byington's second season. Miles Duke from Oklahoma, Tyler Harris from Washington, Jalen Washington from North Carolina, Mason Nicholson from Jacksonville State, A.K. Okereke from Cornell, TCU guard Frankie Collins, and Mike James from NC State and Louisville before that. So, again, be sure you have a scorecard with you when you go to Memorial Gym this season, because you may not know all these guys. Let's take a break here on the weekend warm-up edition of Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. When we come back, we will talk Women's College World Series with Titans social media manager Katie Mosley. Stick around.
Deep in a forest at Nashville Zoo, new creatures here for you to view. Phantoms graced in black and white swing high in trees of dappled light. In rocky crags, tall and steep, small antelopes with nimble feet. A wise old man with beard of white, a sentry perched on stony height. Amidst it all, a hunter lies, with coat of gold and steely eyes. A new adventure just for you. Leopard Forest at Nashville Zoo, opening June 20th.
Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50-plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Piggly Wiggly, located in Neely's Mill Shopping Center, is Columbia's locally owned and operated Cost Plus 10 grocery store dedicated to serving the community with low prices and smiling faces. Piggly Wiggly offers fresh, hand-cut meats daily, as well as daily hot plate lunches from their deli counter. You're certain to see smiling faces and a helping hand when you're here at Piggly Wiggly. Come by and check out our fresh produce, high-quality meats, and more. Down home, down the street, we'll see you at the Pig.
We continue the weekend warm-up here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. I'm Maurice Patton. That's Wade Neely. The Women's College World Series will conclude tonight in Oklahoma City. And our next guest hopes that it concludes in favor of Texas Tech. Katie Mosley, social media manager for the Tennessee Titans, joins us. Katie, hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are y'all?
We're doing well, thanks. Tell me what your softball background is and why you're hoping that trophy tonight makes its way to Lubbock.
Yeah, so I mean, gosh, how long do you have on my softball background? I grew up playing the sport, and I'm from Franklin, so I played at Franklin High School. You might have even covered some of my games, Mo, when I was in high school. But then after high school, I went on to be a manager at the University of Georgia, which I know probably is confusing because I'm wearing Texas Tech stuff. But my job previously, before I worked at the Titans, I was the sports information director for Texas Tech softball. And it was a very different team just 3 years ago, and it's just incredible. I mean, like, I don't even think words can like say what this means for this program and just how far they've come.
It sounds like it was a very different team last year, Katie.
It was. I mean, they were definitely better last year than they had been even when I was there, but they still just barely missed out on the tournament. And so, you know, from not making the tournament for like 4 or 5 straight years to being in the deciding game of the World Series final is just unbelievable.
Well, it's amazing what $1 million well spent will do.
Absolutely well spent.
Yeah.
And I think they just spent another $1 million on her today.
Well, understandably so. You know, Najari Kennedy has kind of been the talk of certainly this series, possibly this season, the first $1 million softball player in the NIL era. But again, and we've talked to Marin Angus Combs from Softball on SI. Wade and I have talked about it. You know, a lot of people spend the money, but you've got to put it in the right place, and you've got to make sure that the person is, you know, worthy of it. And I don't think there was ever any question of that. But at the same time, everybody else has kind of gotten on board with her and with Jerry Glasgow in his first season out in Lubbock. And you can talk about the money, but it's still got to be the right players. And clearly this was that.
Absolutely. I mean, if you look at Nyjah has been so good her whole career, but she's taken her team every single year to the World Series, and she's never made it to the final till this year. So you can talk about, you know, buying games and everything all you want, but that's just not how sports work. You don't buy wins. That's not how it works. And they got the right person, and they also got the right coach in Jerry Glasgow. I also have a personal connection to that one, as Jerry was the assistant coach at Georgia my freshman year when I was manager there, and is actually really who got me the job as a manager. And I feel like in a lot of ways I owe him in my career, and he is as good of a man as he appears on TV, just as nice and kind and thoughtful as he comes across.
You know, after game 1 went the way it did, with Nyjah giving up the game-winning base hit basically on what was supposed to be ball 4, and the way she took ownership of that sequence in the post game, I felt like, you know, she was really going to come out. Not that she wouldn't have come out motivated, but as highly motivated as you could be in that situation last night. You know, she strands the game tying run at second as Tech wins 4-3 last night. What are your expectations? What was your expectation for her last night? How close did she come to reaching it?
I mean, I think absolutely what you said. She's just the ultimate competitor. Like, you can tell in her demeanor and everything, the way she took ownership of that, and just in general, the way she carries herself, that she wasn't going to let that happen again, and she was going to do everything within her power to make that not happen again. And I know she was probably the person who was the most disappointed in that of everybody. And so, yeah, she wasn't going to let that happen for sure. And I think she came out and she pitched an incredible game. And obviously Texas is a good team, so I'm sure, you know, you see those 3 runs scored or some of that, and it might seem like it was a closer game. And it was close at the end, but I mean, she commanded the strike zone and pitched a fantastic game.
Katie, we've got you on and we're talking Kennedy, obviously, and she certainly has been the storyline from the jump for this Texas Tech team at the start of the season. I even said on the show yesterday, I really can't tell you much about the lineup or really any of the rest of the roster, but what kind of makes that lineup special as far as when Texas Tech is at the plate in your mind?
You know, they've struggled definitely a little bit in the scoring aspect. That's kind of been, I think, their biggest downside in this World Series, is because they have Nyjah in the circle, that they know that they don't have to necessarily score as many runs. But when you're facing a team like Texas, you got to score more than one a lot of times. And I think the thing with Texas Tech is they thrive on chaos. Like, if you just have watched any of their games in the World Series, the way they've scored runs, they've manufactured runs in some really crazy ways, with stealing home and taking extra bases and taking advantage of miscues and errors. I mean, they really are a super, super aggressive team. And they brought over a lot of other transfers as well, with Jerry coming from Louisiana, which is always maybe the top, if not one of the top non-Power 5 programs, group of 5 programs. If you want to, I don't even know if you can call that anymore. I don't know what they're called, but
we'll go with it.
Yeah, exactly. So he brought over about 5 girls from that roster that were all incredible players in their own right, and some all conference performers, all, freshman performers that have contributed a lot. But I think the biggest thing for them, I think it starts off with their leadoff hitter, Maya Davis. She kind of struggled a little bit at times in the World Series, but towards the end of game 1, when she was the one that had that hit that scored that controversial run, but she was the one that knocked that runner in. And then yesterday she was just incredible, and she really set the tone for them offensively of getting on base. She's incredibly fast. Like I said, aggressive. She's the one that also scored the winning run on the walk-off because she was on third. And even though it was a shallow ball in right field, she was so quick, you knew that she was going to be able to score. So I think she really sets the tone for them, but then they've got to capitalize, because now twice in the World Series, in the first inning, they've gotten bases loaded in the first inning and come away with no runs each time. So they want to win a game 3 situation, and they get those bases running, they loaded, they really have to capitalize on that.
Other thing, I'm always here for the psychological battle. What is the emotional state of Texas after, you can't really put your fingers on the trophy last night because Texas Tech kind of dominated for the vast majority of the game. But what do you think the Longhorns team is, what's their approach coming into this game tonight?
They're a team that's been in the finals, I think, like 3 or 4 of the last 5 or 6 years. I mean, they've come close so many times. So that they have to want it really bad, but also at the same time, they probably have a little bit of that, oh no, here we go again, creeping up in their mind. And I think with Tech winning that game, that was a game they obviously had to win. Now it puts the pressure back, I think, on Texas to kind of not let that slip away more than it does on Tech. And obviously there's still pressure on Tech because both teams, it's do or die for either of them, right? But I think it kind of puts the pressure a little bit back on Texas of, again, like, you've been here before now, like what's it going to take to get over that hump? Whereas again, Tech's kind of like playing with nothing to lose in a lot of ways. So it'll be interesting, but they are a veteran group in a lot of ways, and so they have a lot of people that have been there before, and Tegan Kavan, their pitcher, has been really great, and Nyjah has actually never won against her as far as like starting roles. So we'll see what comes of it tonight, because you can bet that Nyjah's going to be back in the circle again for a 3rd night in a row.
Yeah.
I was out with some folks last night, and the game was on, and somebody was saying, yeah, she's pitched every game in this tournament. And I said, yeah, and if they win tonight, she's going to pitch tomorrow too. I mean, that's what you brought her for, right?
Exactly.
And we were talking to Marin earlier in the week, and she mentioned she's got a torn hamstring. I mean, you've played the game. It doesn't look like that has impacted her in the game, but it's got to be some sort of a factor, right?
I think I think it was earlier in the season, so it's probably healed a little bit because they took her out of the lineup for a while on the hitting side. She was just pitching, but I can tell a little bit, like it seems like there's a little bit of a limp almost when she's back in the circle. But again, like clearly the ultimate competitor, it's not enough to make her stop. And yeah, I mean, she's just so strong in everything that she does, and she believes. I think her confidence and her mental game in a lot of ways really is as much her strength as her abilities. So I think she's just kind of put it again. I think she said in her post-game press conference, she said, this is the last game for everybody, so I'm going to leave it all on the field. And I truly believe that that's the case. I think if she's bleeding, scraped up, bruised, everything, it's not going to matter for her because she knows that's her last chance.
Well, and laying out for that pop-up last night kind of showed you. I mean, it's kind of spur of the moment, it's kind of instinct, that kind of thing. But at the same time, if you are, the ace of the pitching staff, folks don't necessarily like to see you airborne.
No, I know. But as a former pitcher, I can say myself that she was really showing out for all the pitchers, because I know sometimes we get a little flack for, not being good fielders or whatever. But there's a lot of good pitchers that are great fielders. I think, it's a little unfair of a thing because you're having to worry about throwing the pitch over the plate, and you have a lot shorter reaction time with how close you are to it, that it's just not as easy to field from there.
Katie Mosley of the Tennessee Titans joining us here on Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, talking a little softball. You're from Franklin. You played at Franklin. You wouldn't have been there at the same time as Libby Sugg, would you?
I was. She was my catcher for my last 2 years. So she's 2 years younger than me, but she was my catcher my junior and senior year, and still a very good friend of mine.
We might have to sit down at some point and swap Libby Sugg stories. I've got one from the Franklin Baseball Club, actually. But yeah, she's still playing, isn't she?
She is. She's I think maybe in Austria right now. She's really taken advantage of her situation, and she's playing a lot overseas and goes to Europe a lot. So I was talking to her not long ago about it. It's a really cool situation, and she's a fantastic player. I mean, she really talk about a Nigeria Kennedy. She was the Nigeria Kennedy for the Franklin softball team. We were not very good the year before she got there. I think we won like 3 games, and then she got there, and we were by my senior year, we were runners up in the district and made it to the state tournament for the first time in 10 years. So she really kind of had the Nigeria Kennedy effect on our program.
She was definitely a difference maker. Katie, what's going on out at Ascension St. Thomas Sports Park right now? Anything of note?
Well, we just had a cornhole tournament here for the employees, so that's kind of what we got going on today, I think. But yeah, it's been great with OTAs and everything. Really starting to feel like football time again. But yeah, just chugging along.
Okay. Hey, that makes me think, Katie. I do want to ask you. We've got you repping for Tech, obviously. How much trash talk have you and Tavondre Sweat had during this College World Series? What I really want to know, has there been any discourse there between the Longhorns and Tech fans of the world?
I haven't run into Tavondre. I haven't really been out at practice much. Our other social person has been doing practice. So, but if we win, I'll try and find him and give him a little guns up. So,
be some good content. You and Meatloaf going toe to toe over some softball chatter. I feel like it'd be pretty compelling stuff. And we saw Mahomes, last night putting on and showing out. He got some camera time as well. And it's been, to your original kind of comments, this has been a fun series, and it's been a magical run for Tech. And if you believe in, fairy tales and stories and feel goods, it hopefully ends with a victory for them tonight, in my mind.
Absolutely. I'm hoping for the best. Obviously, I want Tech to win, but I think even no matter how it goes, I'm just so happy for that program and for those girls. And specifically, I just got to give a shout out to Demi Elder, the lone senior who's been there for 4 years. And so she was a freshman my last year at Texas Tech. So the only player on the team that I still know and I worked with, and just an unbelievable human being. And for her to stay there through 3 coaching changes, and I'm sure really 4 in a way, because I'm sure the coach that recruited her was not the coach that was there when I got there. So, I mean, she's just like the definition of what it means to be a Red Raider for life, because she could have easily left. A lot of girls did, and I don't blame any of the ones that did either, but she's stuck around, and she's really getting to benefit from those that hard work and those tough times now. And so for Jerry and all those people, I really want it, but honestly, I think I want it the most for Demi Elder.
You bring up an interesting point, Katie, because I was looking at something on the socials earlier today, and somebody was saying they feel sorry for the girls who were there, the young ladies, that were there with these 8 folks transferred in from last year to this year. And, now they're having to sit behind those people and that kind of thing. What is that dynamic when you feel like maybe you have earned, by being there, an opportunity to get on the field, and then all of a sudden all these folks transfer in and they're playing and you're sitting yet again? What is that dynamic? How does that go down?
Well, so for Texas Tech, they actually only have 3 people at all from returning from last year. And so 2 of them were freshmen last year, they're sophomores, and they kind of actually did experience that. I think one was kind of a regular starter this year until Demi Elder came back from injury, because Demi started the season injured, and then she became like more of a pinch hitter role. But I think that's another thing that's made Tech so strong is they clearly all know their roles and believe in their roles, because the 2 girls that returned from last year are the first 2 girls that Tech will pinch hit. They've done it in about every game this World Series. Those 2 girls have gotten opportunities to pinch hit, and multiple times both of them have come through. And so I think that just shows that they're not jealous, they're not upset. They know that they still have a role where they can help the team. And they've done that. And then on top of it, you talk about, dynamics of maybe the girls who left and like, are they upset or jealous or whatever that they left? Well, I can tell you, because I was actually at the World Series from Thursday through Sunday, a lot of them showed up, and a lot of them who had even transferred out of the program and went to other programs because of coaching changes, they still love Texas Tech so much and care about Texas Tech. They came, they were in their Tech colors, they were cheering loudly. I mean, it just goes to show that even though the programs had some rough times, how much they all care about Texas Tech as a university, and that they really bought in and are supporting and behind this team.
Glad you were able to get out there and enjoy some of this. Hate that you couldn't stay and be there this week, but I'm sure you'll be watching tonight, and good luck to the Red Raiders.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you,
Absolutely.
Katie.
Thank you, Katie. Katie Mosley, social media manager of the Tennessee Titans, joining us here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. Let's take a break. Let's come back and let's get you ready for the weekend here on the Weekend Warm-Up. We'll be right back.
Being in Tennessee, we wanted to try to keep it as local as possible, so we have an entire section of our menu that is just dedicated to local whiskeys like Uncle Nearest, Jack Daniels, of course, George Dickel, Nelson Brothers, Greenbrier Whiskey, and all of our taps are all local. From 2 o'clock until midnight, we've got food every day for you guys. A good handful of appetizers, some entrees, and a couple salads and things like that. My name is Ethan Kanata. Please come down and see us at the Pick Lobby Bar here at the Omni in Nashville.
At Delta Dental of Tennessee, we know our success begins and ends with providing superior quality service, and that includes serving those who need it most. This year, we're celebrating 25 years of giving back to the community we call home. Delta Dental, along with our Smile 180 Foundation, supports Tennessee's dental colleges and oral health education, children's hospitals, free and reduced cost dental clinics, and other like-minded charities. Here's to the next 25 plus years of ensuring healthy smiles.
There's a line that links us all. Most of the time, we don't even think about it, but it's everywhere. Illuminating our neighborhoods, empowering our businesses, and helping us to recharge. Whether it comes from our grids, the sun, or a kind heart, we believe in the power of good energy. And as your family and region continue to grow, you can trust that we'll always be there for you. Middle Tennessee Electric, bringing good energy.
It's the final segment of the weekend warm-up edition of Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. That's Wade Neely. I'm Maurice Patton. And as we mentioned earlier in the show, this is NCAA Super Regional weekend for Division I baseball. As Wade said, we've already got one final in the books. North Carolina with an 18-2 Game 1 victory over visiting Arizona, and the ACC kind of announcing its presence with authority. Although this is an ACC on ACC crime right here. We're in the top of the 4th. Louisville with a 7-1 lead over Miami of Florida. Again, in a battle of 2 Atlantic Coast Conference teams. At 5, we've got Oregon State hosting Florida State, your 3rd ACC squad. And the nightcap tonight has 13th seed Coastal Carolina at 4 seed Auburn in Game 1 of that super down there. So A lot of college baseball and a lot of flexing by the ACC. They got 5 teams in to this weekend, but excuse me, one of them, Duke, has got kind of the Cinderella story of this weekend, I guess, as Murray State emerged from the Oxford Regional down in Mississippi, downing Ole Miss, hanging on for a 12-11 win in the Monday finale to advance. And personal note here. So Friday night, I went down to Vanderbilt and watched the Wright State game. Picked up a couple of souvenir caps while I was down there. One for me, one for my dad. My dad is out and about earlier this week. I guess it was Wednesday, maybe. And somebody came up to him and said, "Did you go to the game?" I said, "No, my son got me this cap." So when my son plays for Murray State, my dad neglects to get a name, but we are figuring that it's another Franklin graduate, senior infielder Carson Garner, who, again, is a senior starter for the Racers and has had a more than solid season, hitting .278, second on the team with 60 runs scored, 16 home runs, 13 doubles, and again, quite the contributor for this Racers team as they head into the Super Regionals over at Duke starting tomorrow. One of 4 mid-state guys, or guys with mid-state ties. They've got a couple of freshmen, Chase Clater from Nolensville, Braden Baker from Eagleville, who we just had their coach on yesterday. And then they've got a transfer from Columbia State as well, Jackson Diamond. So, you know, if you're looking for somebody to root for this weekend, again, Murray State won the Missouri Valley Conference tournament and went down and came out of the Oxford Regional, knocking off the host Rebels. So I believe it's their first Super Regional and looking to do some more damage against the ACC. So
yeah, going to be fun. I mean, and we kind of really can't lose with both of those guys, right? I mean, you got Duke, who's kind of an underdog, as big of an underdog as you could be, being in a premier conference and having the resources that they have. But yeah, first region championship for Murray State, the Breads, you know, and should be fun. Always good when you got a little local juice.
Mm-hmm.
Good buddy of mine, Kevin Maloney, works for ESPNU. He'll be down there tomorrow. He was already posting pictures from campus, and I just reminded him. I said, "Hey, I don't hate Duke baseball. I got no qualms with them. Only men's basketball." So don't be getting that out there. But that should be a fun series. And again, it feels like we can't lose. If Murray State advances, we're talking about a real Cinderella. And if Duke advances, yeah, I mean, not necessarily a Cinderella, but considering they're unseeded, it'll still be really kind of neat to see them advance.
Absolutely. Your other games that will start up, or your other series that will start up tomorrow, you've got Texas San Antonio, UTSA at UCLA. That'll be a 7:00 game tomorrow night in game 1. Murray and Duke will play at 1 tomorrow. You can see that on ESPNU. West Virginia goes to Baton Rouge, taking on LSU. That'll be a 2:00 start. You can see it on ESPN. And obviously, as we mentioned during the rundown, number 14, Tennessee, number 3, Arkansas. That's a 5:00 start here and in Fayetteville. And you can see that one on ESPN. So lots of college baseball coming at you here over the next few days as we make our moves toward Omaha. Always a fun time of year, man. It's not the only postseason play going on this weekend, though. We've got the UFL semifinals on Sunday. Michigan and Birmingham will play at 2:00 on ABC. That game will be in Birmingham. The Stallions are 7-3. Michigan Panthers coming in at 6-4. And at 5 on Fox, it'll be the St. Louis Battlehawks and the DC Defenders. The Defenders 6-4, led by interim coach Shannon Harris, former TSU quarterback, and former TSU and Ravenwood High School standout Chris Rowland kind of getting that offense going for the defenders. Again, the Battlehawks 8-2. Championship game will be next weekend, I do believe. So if you need a football fix, there's that.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see how this one shakes out, especially that defenders game, right? Because obviously the local connection, but they got off to a great start, started 0-3 and went up to St. Louis and beat them in early April. Kind of have fizzled a little bit. They dropped a sketchy game to the Roughnecks at the end of the regular season. And then we talked about last week's defeat at home to the Battlehawks. Very low scoring affair in that one, 13-8. So that'll be one, if it does stroll across the dial. The XFL championship game will be one that I'll be tuning into maybe on Sunday.
Yeah. Coming off of NASCAR's weekend in Nashville, they go to Michigan this weekend. And, excuse me, 2311, the racing team that includes Tyler Reddick and Bubba Wallace, among others, feeling like maybe they kind of got some mojo back over at the Nashville Superspeedway. A couple of top 10 finishes for both those guys. Obviously, neither of them won. Ryan Blaney did, but again, they both finished in the top 10. Bubba finishing 6th. And that team had struggled throughout the month of May, so they're feeling pretty good heading into June and heading into Michigan, where they've had some success as well. So might be getting ready to get right there, 2311, but a tough situation in court for that team. We've talked with our NASCAR analyst, Heather Williams from WCYB TV up in Johnson City on a few occasions regarding this charter situation that 2311 and Front Row are both suing in regards to. Well, apparently there was a ruling here over the last couple of days where they may actually lose their charter status as a result of preliminary injunction was vacated yesterday that required NASCAR to treat them as charter teams for this season, which means that they get automatic spots in the race from week to week and that kind of thing. So there's a possibility that those automatic spots may go away and thus kind of throw their seasons into jeopardy. Now, it won't happen before the end of the month. It wouldn't be before the Cup Series goes to Atlanta the last weekend in June that this would have an impact. But apparently this is something that's going to have to be dealt with here again in court over the next couple of weeks, I guess, to see where it goes. And it's a little over my head. We will have to talk to Heather about it when we get her back on next week, but this is out there. So yeah,
it's going to get ugly, just like anything that goes to court does, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it'll be long, it'll be drawn out, it'll be ugly. That's the good and bad, depending on your worldview. You know, when you go to court, your dirty laundry gets aired out for everybody to see. So buckle up. Yeah, it feels like we're in for a interesting story and an interesting ride.
Yeah. You mentioned earlier we've got Sabalenka and golf in the 8 o'clock women's single finals of the French Open tomorrow. The top 2 seeds. And it doesn't come down like that as often as you'd like to think, I don't guess.
No, this has been a fun tournament, but, you know, technically by the letter of the law or by the seeding, yeah, we do end up with 1 and 2. Both have kind of faced some resistance here and there, but they find themselves. This will be fun. Coco's looking for a win to kind of further solidify. I don't know how the points break down. I don't know if a win here means she jumps to number 1, but she's playing at a high level, and we'll all be rooting for her tomorrow morning, I would imagine.
Men's final Sunday, is that right?
Yep. Alcaraz with a win earlier today, and then Sinner just knocked off Djokovic in straight sets a moment ago. So 1 and 2 on the men's side as well. If you like chalk, Like I said, there's been some parity along the way, but it ends up being 1 and 2 in both tournaments.
Belmont Stakes, the final leg of the Triple Crown that no one will win this year, is tomorrow. And if there won't be a Triple Crown, at least you'll have the two winners of the two previous races, the Kentucky Derby and the Preakness, going head up. Sovereignty, your Kentucky Derby winner who did not run at the Preakness. Journalism, who did win the Preakness. And Baeza, who kind of came out of nowhere, literally to be a factor at Louisville, are your three favorites going into tomorrow.
Yeah, short field, chance, stop me if you've heard this before, chance of slop tomorrow. So it's going to be interesting. I'm rolling with Baez in this, coming off a little bit of a layoff. He's the strong horse. He was my pick to win the Derby once he did get in the field at the price that we got him. I'm going to roll with him again. If it is sloppy, though, that could hurt journalism. And, I don't know if that necessarily helps Baeza, but it seems, according to the horse nerds out there, to hurt journalism. Maybe that opens the door for somebody like Rodriguez or obviously Sovereignty, our Derby winner.
Rodriguez kind of looks kind of solid at 6-1. I again kind of default to journalism, but at the same time, I got a feeling about Rodriguez for some reason here. I think it would kind of be cool to see Sovereignty win, though, because then it kind of opens up the what if. What if he had run at the Preakness? Could he have pulled off the Triple Crown? And clearly we won't know, but I just think that it really kind of brings that into question and creates some buzz there, I think, if he were to pick up the win here tomorrow.
I think so. It should be a fun race, whether it's sloppy or not. Extra distance on this one. It's a big, long 1.5 miles up there at Belmont. That course is, or that track is massive compared to some of the others. So they will get out. They will run. It'll be fun. I'm like you. Seems like value could be had on Rodriguez at 6-1. You get a nice little payday, with a guy or with a horse rather that, not necessarily a favorite, but he's right there in that mix. It seems like, right?
Yeah. An 8-horse field, to your point. I don't know enough about horse racing to know, but again, the Kentucky Derby had 20 horses in it, 18, 20. How does the smaller field impact the race, do you think?
To me, to a very lay person, I would imagine that helps your favorites. And that's kind of why we see, even if you don't win the Derby is by and large kind of like a crapshoot, right? Yes, the best horse could win and sometimes does win, but it feels like anything goes. There's just so many variables at play there. But when you dwindle that field, kind of seems like the cream rises to the top a little bit. And I don't know that it's planned this way. And they had 10 went off last year in the Belmont, so they're a couple shy this year. But it kind of almost feels like, hey, the Derby's out of the way. It's kind of a freak show, kind of a circus act in a sense with so many horses. This is kind of the real purest two races with the Preakness and now the Belmont. Should be a fun one tomorrow.
It'll be interesting. This year, the Belmont Stakes are actually taking place at the Saratoga Racecourse.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, apparently
still long.
It's 1.25 miles instead of 1.5 miles. So it's the same length as the Derby.
Okay, it doesn't really change much. I do like that too. I like the Belmont because you get to root a little longer. It goes so fast, and I like my money to last a little bit longer before it literally goes up.
Before you give it away. Yeah,
right. When they go at Belmont, good catch right there because now I got less time with my shekels before they leave my pocketbook.
Well, it'll be back at Belmont next year. Apparently, they are redeveloping the track, the facility there, and so they had to move it this time around, but it'll be back. So look out for that. Ladies and gentlemen, that is going to do it for the weekend warm-up edition of Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. We will see y'all Monday at 2:00 right here. Be sure and join us. Have a great weekend. We'll see you.